Hey everyone, what's up? So today I had a little unfortunate incident last night in my yard, and so today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do an emergency repotting. And if I have ever had an emergency in terms of repotting, this is definitely it. This tree is supposed to be upright like this, and it's now missing most of its crown, not all of it. So maybe it can be saved, maybe not. As you can see here, the roots are kind of been sticking out, and we'll get into the story of what happened here in a minute, but I'm just going to go ahead and get this out of the pot and talk to you guys while I'm doing that. So anytime you're doing emergency repotting, I call it emergency repotting when it's out of season or when something traumatic has happened to the plant. And in this case, there was definitely something traumatic that happened. I was woken up at about 2 o'clock last night and heard just these noises coming from my roof, and I went out and there was a ladder missing from my backyard that usually sits on the porch, on the deck in my backyard. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm just removing all the tie wires and anything else that might impede me from removing this from the pot. Luckily, even though the tree was damaged, the pot, which is an older pot by Jim Gremel, who's a local potter here, the pot survived intact. So I went outside and I looked and I thought, oh, there's a ladder's missing, and simultaneously I had been hearing these weird sounds. So I called the police, and it was a crazy scene. Basically, the police showed up, and there was a guy in a house next to mine. He was hiding under the back porch of the house next to mine, and then when he saw the police go inside the house, hightailed it out of my neighbor's yard, through my yard, proceeding to climb over the fence, and ended up kind of shimmying along the fence, and then ended up falling on top of this tree. So if you can imagine a person completely falling on top of this tree, that is what happened. And so I don't think I've ever dealt with a tree that had quite this much trauma. I've dealt with trees that like fall off benches because of raccoons. I've dealt with trees that were knocked out of their containers. But basically, this tree has a severe amount of damage. I don't know whether it's going to live or not. And even though some of the branches are intact up here, it's most likely also got damage to the roots that you can see here. Those surface roots feed pretty much the whole thing because the majority of the trunk here is rotten. So some of the rotten pieces got broken off in the same way. So I'm going to go around and just scrape enough soil out of this pot to be able to get it out. I'm really not looking to do a repot here. This is a tree that I've had for the better part of 15 years, and it has a very well-established root ball. In a normal situation, I would be combing out more roots and dealing with the root ball, but for this, because there's been so much trauma to the plant, all I really want to do is get this back in a pot where it can grow, and then I'm just going to wait to see what happens with all of this, whether or not individual branches die. There's a bunch of branches that I already removed that were completely broken off, which you can see here, and I'm not going to put this back in the same pot because I literally just want to do as little invasive work as possible to get this secured back in a container with some soil around the roots so that it can have some room to grow. Just going to go ahead and remove the old tie wires here carefully. You can kind of see that almost all of the roots that are coming out here are coming from these two roots. There's also like a root here. The tree kind of has a lifeline that runs up the back here, and the front is entirely rotted out and dead. So we can, if it lives, we can treat it with a little bit more age and respect, having survived this ordeal. And I'm just going to flip it over here and try not to dislodge any of the roots, but you can see that there's a mat of roots. And during a normal repotting, I would certainly be, there's another piece of the crown just fell off, and there's some more roots falling off. I would certainly be combing all of this out, but like I said, I'm just going to put it back into a pot and secure it as well as I can. So here we go. All right, so I've got this kind of set in the container, and you can see that it's certainly not perfect, but basically I just sort of reoriented the angle, tried to get it into a little bit deeper container to give it some room to grow, and now I'm just going to chop in a little bit of soil around the edges and give it some water. All right, so kind of like starting over again. It's not exactly an urban Yamadori like it was when I got it, but it's pretty close. It's seen its share of urban interest, and we'll see how it goes from here. I'm going to get this thing water, and I'll update you guys next time.